For years, Terry has spotted the shape-shifting UFO above his house. He's managed to document the object on his phone.
What I wanted to show you is right here. This thing was following me. This is here in Dallas.
Where are you in these pictures?
I'm driving a car. I'm trying to take pictures of these things. Take your finger and spread that apart.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow, that looks similar to one of our photos.
And did that thing maintain its shape?
No.
This one was kind of morphing as well.
Morphing, yeah. To an orb,
wow, look at
and
that.
then to a sundial.
Ben compares Terry's photo to images of the shape-shifting craft Steve Murillo shared with him.
Wow.
But Terry's experience with the shape-shifting UFO started long before this 2019 snapshot. He first saw it 46 years ago.
It's while I was on active duty, stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base, just southwest of Kansas City.
One to Charlie 4. Go ahead. Well, what's your location, sir?
Terry and another medic were responding to a call when they got stopped at a roadblock.
There was a captain there in the road who said, you know, park your ambulance over there, stay off the radio, don't get out of your ambulance. I'm like, okay, yes, sir.
But Terry's colleague was not as obedient.
My friend, who was kind of the impulsive one, was like, I'm gonna go out and see what's going on, pulling me out of the ambulance.
When Terry arrived at the missile silo, he couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. There was chaos on the ground. But it's what was in the sky that troubled Terry most.
Suspended over this missile silo, about 50 feet in the air, is a black object. Black matte, non-reflective, no insignia, no rivets, no windows, no nothing. And it was enormous. I did a drawing of it, contemporaneous with the event.
Could you draw it now?
Sure, I could draw it now.
I'm sure it's ingrained in your memory.
It is, and in my nightmares. That will give you an idea.
Wow, it's
That,
huge.
compared to you, looks massive.
In this form, the shapeshifter resembles the craft that Terry claims has been stalking his home, as well as one of the shapes it took in Steve Murillo's files.
And it's absolutely motionless. Everybody there, we are silent. We're just watching this thing.
Suddenly, the object shapeshifted into a sphere and disappeared into the night sky.
When we got back to the base, and it was a long, silent trip home, the only real conversation we made was a pact between us that we would never tell anyone that we had this experience. Because if we told someone, they would have sent us out for a psych eval, and it could have been the end of our military career, and we didn't want that.
For the next 46 years, Terry would continue to be visited by this UFO.
I was lying in bed, asleep. And I felt something grab my arm, and it woke me up. But I could see that there was this like shadow figure of a torso, 2 arms, and a head standing over me. And as I'm watching this, all of a sudden my room behind this shadow person just starts lighting up in like this golden light. So I thought to myself, you know, what is going on? And then I passed out. And then I opened my eyes and I can see that there's this female. Her skin is blue. And I can feel that her skin is much thicker than normal human skin would be, and smoother than human skin. I knew what it was. I knew she wasn't human. Sorry, just thinking about it gets me. I mean, it was terrifying, right? Because suddenly I knew, okay, this isn't just in my head anymore.
Were you scared?
Yes, I was terrified. And then I woke up in my bed the next morning.
I know some of it can be painful. It's important.
It is, thank you.
In 2015, deployed off the coast of Florida, Matthew Roberts had an encounter with a shape-shifting UFO. 2 years later, he had a close encounter with a blue extraterrestrial. Could the two be related? Could this blue creature be piloting a UFO that can change shape?
Do you think that you could possibly draw what she looked like? First of all, let's start with how tall do you think she is?
Maybe 6 foot or taller.
Matthew depicts a blue creature with long arms and a strange human head, with a light radiating from the center.
This drawing by Matthew is really interesting. It must have been terrifying to wake up to this being in his room. I've interviewed a lot of people about this tall blue species. It's referred to as the blue Syrians. They're highly advanced. They're very interested in human biology and technology, not only on this planet, but throughout the universe.
It's believed the blue Syrians originate from the Sirius system, 8.6 light years from our Earth. They're described as tall humanoids, known for their advanced intelligence and complex technology.
The blue Syrians is a blue-skinned entity that is extremely intelligent and that has often put them on a mission here on planet Earth to gather information. There is an idea that the blue beings are interested in us as more like lab rats, that they're basically studying us, maybe doing some testing and so on. That seems to be the narrative that I get most of the time from abductees that have had contact with these type of beings. But the problem is, why is it taking you 10,000 years to study human beings when we can do that in a short amount of testing? So there's something wrong with the story. There's something else going on here.
What exactly is the blue Syrian agenda? If they are the alien species piloting shape-shifting UFOs, how alarmed should we be?
So we were coming through here in a station wagon. My mother was driving. My grandmother was in the passenger seat. As we exited this bridge, my grandmother had turned around and she saw the sphere. This thing was huge. It had like a roll to it, like an ocean wave in the middle of it. It was very crisp, and it was right over there. Yes, right over the water. When we stopped where we were, we felt like we were deep underwater. There was a silence. It was like someone just flipped a switch off on life itself. And then there was this flash. My mother believes that that white sphere actually came towards our car, and that's the white light we saw. And that's the last thing we remember from being in the car.
The horror didn't end there.
The car is where when all of a sudden you lose consciousness.
Right near the second telephone pole. And it's ironic because it's everybody in my family remembers just parts of it. But when we came to, I say came to because I really don't know, we came to at different times. We didn't all come through at the same time.
That's weird.
The car was off. My grandmother was now in the driver's seat. My mother was in the passenger seat. I was in the same spot, and my brother's head was on my leg.
The car pulls up, you're seeing this orb. And then from that point to when you finally wake up, can you give us the details of what you remember?
Yes.
Tom found himself on a massive alien ship with no idea where his family was.
I remember being in the hangar. I was sitting on this, what looked like an autopsy table.
But he was not alone.
There were other figures there. Some looked like an ant, the head like a football, stick-like legs like bamboo.
There was nowhere to run.
This apparatus came down from the ceiling, held me in place, and then these packets were put on my body to look like giant raisins.
What are you feeling this whole time?
I mean, I was going in and out of being scared. And you know, I remember other things too that I don't say too often, like being hurt. I remember sitting somewhere and screaming because I had like what felt like boiling water going through my back and arms.
Like they put something in you.
What it felt like, maybe a liquid or a fluid. So that was painful. The arm was painful.
I think it's terrifying.
It's like
It's absolutely terrifying.
I was just, it was like right now, I'll get the chill thing again.
Did your mom or grandma experience similar things?
I remember what I believed to be my mother calling for me, screaming.
As a father, I can tell you that that's pretty heartbreaking to me. I would want to do everything I could to try and find out why. You're saying it looked like an insectoid, sort of an ant-like head?
Yes, I got a picture of it actually in my case.
Why don't you pull that out for us?
This is a very good depiction, and my brother and I paid a fortune to have this done.
Oh.
Alien researchers are plenty familiar with these so-called insectoids.
The insectoid interactions with abductees are very traumatic. It's a horrific experience. It amounts to torture. They have absolutely no concern for you as a human being in any sense of the word. They're intelligent, they know what they're doing. Some people describe insectoids as having large eyes and little mandibles for a mouth. I think you're in danger if you're in their domain.
Ben and Melissa are meeting the witness at the site of his encounter.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You too. This is Melissa.
Melissa, hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
I heard that you had a very close experience. Are we in kind of the general vicinity of where this happened?
Yeah, we're pretty much within a few miles of where it happened that night.
Could you start us off by explaining what happened that night?
March 27th, 1996. Something I'll never forget. It was about 10 o'clock at night. I'm driving on Highway 93, coming around a bend just past the Apex power station.
Off in the distance, miles ahead of me, I see a light on the road. My first reaction was there's another vehicle on the highway approaching me. I didn't put much thought into it. Within a few minutes, I was pulling up underneath. There was certainly some kind of solid object above the road with the lights on it. It's as if it was waiting for me. So I just stopped it right in the middle of the road.
How long were you underneath it?
A number of minutes. You know, at that moment, it just felt like an eternity.
The triangle overwhelmed him, and he felt powerless in its presence. All he could do was look up and pray he'd survive the encounter.
The bottom of the craft was darker than a night sky, so I can completely make out the shape of the craft. What I could see was equilateral black triangle. And it had 9 lights and like a delta shape underneath it. It was all right angles. There was no curves anywhere on this thing.
Sean was paralyzed by the sheer scale of the craft, and before he knew it, the massive object was on top of him.
The craft was so low to the ground that the rear end of it was blocking my view of this mountain range behind you. It was 20 feet or less over my head.
Like a moth to the flame, Sean was entranced. But just when he was on the verge of being overwhelmed, the triangle vanished.
Just 1 minute it's there, next minute it's gone.
Any sound whatsoever?
Completely silent. So I scan the horizon, and then I can see it looked like it had already traveled maybe a mile or 2 from where I was at. No propellers, no jet engines, you know, didn't fly like a helicopter or a jet. I had never heard of anything like that before in any UFO case.
You said you had to get there as soon as possible. Did you feel compelled to the craft?
Well, that's a good question, but that opens up a can of worms because it's a complicated subject. An hour before the encounter, I was at work when I heard a voice tell me to go to Area 51.
Why did it want you to go to Area 51?
The purpose of the voice wasn't to get me out to Area 51. The purpose of the voice was to get me in this spot at the very specific time that craft would be here.
Could the alien species piloting this UFO be capable of communicating with humans telepathically? If so, what do they want?
I have a huge notebook in the car. Would you want to draw actually what the triangle craft looked like?
Well, better than drawing it or describing it, I can show you. So this is the model of the UFO I saw that night. So if you look at the craft here, you can see obviously there's no curves. There's just straight edge, straight flat surfaces, and then the 9 lights on the bottom of it.
Oh, wow.
Sean's model doesn't just represent what he saw that night. It also matches countless descriptions of black triangle UFOs.
Well, Sean, what I really love about this is that you've gone to such great lengths. You wanted to figure out all sides of it. This really helps me visualize, and gosh, it fits in with so much of what we've been saying.
Yeah.
If the alien species piloting the black triangle is communicating with humans, could this be some kind of warning?